Is anyone aware that there was a BRICS conference going on in Russia recently? Is anyone aware of that? Because if you just watch the mainstream news, you would not be aware of it. This is Charles Kelly Money Tips podcast. Now, a BRICS conference has been going on this week. In case you're watching this in the future, it was in June, and it was going on in Russia. And in case you know what BRICS is, it's a group of countries that have formed a financial pact, if you like, to get together to what they call form a new world order. It's a challenge to the domination of America and the dollar, if you like. And BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Those are the countries. But over 30 other countries have requested to join, and some have already joined, like Iran and Saudi Arabia. I think the UAE wants to go in, and there'll be lots of other countries. So these countries can effectively trade with each other. They've got a trade agreement that they could form their own gold-backed currency. So I don't think it will crash the dollar, but it is a threat. It's like saying, look, we've had enough of being dominated by America and the fact that the dollar is the reserve currency of the world, which means that a lot of goods like oil have to be traded in dollars. It gives the US a massive advantage because countries have to hold dollars. They have to buy US bonds in dollars to hold dollars in order to pay for the exports and imports and that sort of thing. So this has been a problem, and particularly in the last few years when America has been throwing its weight around and sanctioning countries and actually seizing assets from Russia. During this war, they've seized assets. They've just confiscated hundreds of millions of dollars worth of assets, dollar assets. So that has made countries think, well, we just can't put up with this. So the BRICS is quite a serious thing. You should keep an eye on this. Now, the only channel that was showing this conference or any news about this conference whatsoever on my sort of TV of main channels was Al Jazeera, which is a Middle Eastern channel. Now, I switch between channels. I know that every channel's its own bias, but I find Al Jazeera actually gives you some world news. And I was on another channel, another Middle Eastern channel. I was actually on the channel recently, and they also give a lot of world news and events that you wouldn't necessarily see on the BBC or Sky. GB News actually does give a wider coverage, but most of the mainstream UK-based channels focus on the UK and the US and maybe what's going on in France. So, they were talking the other day about the European elections, which has seen many MEPs been voted out, and people in Europe voting for more right-wing MEPs, and the people that run the EU, people like Ursula von der Leyen have got, and Macron and people like that, they've got a bit worried about this. So Macron immediately called for a snap election in France, and I think the Belgian Prime Minister has done the same thing, because they're worried about the growing what they call the far right. I just call it the right. People who are not left-wing and communists, they are the right. They're not the far right. Some of them are, but they're not all the far right. But people in Europe are dissatisfied with what's been going on, with the way that the European Union have forced these green policies on them. Farmers are not happy. Farmers have been demonstrating and rioting for a couple of years. So this is part of it, and that's all that's been on the news recently. And then of course the UK elections have been going on, but they've ignored the BRICS conference, which is very important. And as I said, their intention is to form a new world order. That's exactly what a new world order. Now, whether or not that will happen, I don't think they're going to completely wipe out the dollar, but it's a challenge to the dollar. I think the dollar will still remain as the world currency, reserve currency for the time being. There's no other currency that can replace it, frankly. But these nations, like for instance, Iran can sell its oil to China. China can trade with Russia, and they're just busting the sanctions. China is supplying weapons and receiving oil and gas from Russia, whereas we in the European countries, no, we're not going to take your oil and gas. And what's happened? Our inflation shot up, our prices have shot up. We're still paying through the nose for our petrol at the pumps. We're some of our utility bills like gas and electricity trebled during this period, and a lot of people are still stuck in that. So our economy has suffered, but other countries like India said, no, we're going to remain neutral. We will still continue to buy, and these are some of these BRICS countries. They're also going to look at the fact that countries like Brazil will be a dominant country in the future. India is already starting to become a dominant country in economically, and Brazil is going to be the same. And so we're going to see. And you look at Saudi Arabia, the oil reserves they've got, and they're in this BRICS alliance. Okay, now obviously within these countries they're not all politically aligned. There's very different types of countries, from communist Russia and China to Saudi Arabia, which is run by a kingdom, to South Africa, which is a democracy. So there's a big difference. But the GDP of these BRICS countries, apparently outstrips the G7 GDP, and certainly the future GDP of 30 countries that want to join this, and they will also be in control of much of the world's resources, natural resources. So this is a clever move by Russia and China to form this alliance, because they will not only have an alliance that can ignore the US, but they will also have an alliance that includes much of the world's resource. I mean, think of all the oil and gas that Russia has, and Saudi Arabia has, and Iran has, and some of the other Middle Eastern countries that will be joining this. Think of that, just that. And we're not going to be switching to wind power next year. We'll need oil for the next 50 years. And then you think of the other the other natural resources they've got. Then you think of the economic might and then the trading might of China. So I'm really surprised that the news here has completely ignored this conference, but I haven't ignored it, and that's why I'm telling you about it now. So keep an eye out for that. Now, obviously in the UK, as I said, the cost of living has soared in the last couple of years, and we're still in the cost of living crisis, despite the fact that the government have said, oh, inflation is now just over 2%. Is it hell? It's not. I know things are still going up in the shops, and ordinary people are going out and the next time they need to buy dishwasher tablets or washing powder, it's gone up in price by maybe 10%, maybe 20%. In some cases things have doubled if you haven't bought a particular item for a couple of years. I know that during that period of inflation I bought a lot of non-perishable goods that I thought, well, I might as well stock up on these things, because with inflation at 10 and 20%, I can't make that much of my money, so I might as well put it into the commodities of whatever things that you need, that you are going to use, whether it's washing powder, dishwasher tablets, or whatever things that that I mean, you can't do it with bread, for instance, but if you get what I'm saying, I'm not a prepper or something, but I just thought, well, I'll buy the things I need now that will last me for another couple of years. But when I've gone back to buy those things again, wow, have they gone up in price? Now, we know that people are suffering from higher interest rates, people are suffering from higher cost of bills, higher cost of food in the shops, etc. So what can you do about it? Well, I run a webinar most Wednesdays at 7 p.m. in the UK called Unlocking the Secrets of Financial Freedom in 3 Simple Steps. And with that, I teach people in 3 steps how to, first of all, get control of their finances, and I'll give you some practical tools to do that. It's not a woo-woo thing, just sit there and meditate and the money will come. No. Then we look at some methods of building your wealth by investing into assets and doing that in the right way. And finally, we look at the freedom things. What's your plan for your financial freedom? And we look at that in this webinar, Unlocking the Secrets of Financial Freedom in 3 Simple Steps. So do check the link out for that, and I will see you there. In the meantime, see you soon. Bye for now.